All right, it's 6 o'clock. So again, what I want to remind you is this is simultaneously streaming on both YouTube and TikTok. I'm trying to get more long form content over at YouTube. And so I want to encourage you to follow along there, because tonight I'm going to have some articles that I'm going to be reading from news articles, and I'm going to have some paragraphs and some sentences highlighted that I'm talking about. If you're watching on TikTok, you will be able to listen just fine and hear me read those sentences. However, if you want to see the article for yourself, you want to see the part that I'm highlighting and talking about, then you could watch that on YouTube. In addition, I'm going to show a trailer to a new episode of Law and Order coming out tomorrow about Luigi Mangione. So what is this? A fiction show about Luigi Mangione? Yes, there's going to be a fiction episode of Law and Order about Luigi Mangione. We're going to talk about that tonight. And if you want to see the clip of that episode, you're going to need to watch the YouTube feed as well, so you can see that clip. Otherwise, it'll be a little bit of a lull in the TikTok while we watch that video together. There's also going to be a clip that I'm going to show on YouTube tonight from Thomas Dickey, just basically proving that Thomas Dickey has indeed seen the footage of the arrest in Altoona, Pennsylvania of Luigi Mangione. Now, one of the things that I'm going to, so let me get what I promised I was going to do is I'm going to start out by getting the highlights. Here's what we're going to talk about tonight. We're going to talk about why the feds have delayed Luigi Mangione's indictment once again and set a new deadline of April 18th, right? So we know that the federal government keeps postponing the indictment of Luigi Mangione. I'm going to explain tonight a little bit what the difference is between an indictment and a preliminary hearing. I'm going to explain the process and law. And I'm not a lawyer, but I did sleep at a Holiday Inn last night, so I'm feeling pretty good, and I feel like I can pretty much cover that. So I'm going to cover that. I'm going to explain why. Sorry, it's an old joke. I'm an old guy. So we're going to cover why the Pennsylvania case may be the reason why the federal government is delaying the indictment of Luigi Mangione and what that means for Luigi Mangione. And I'm going to try to explain it to you in simple terms so that you understand, because I've had a lot of people ask me when I did a video just recently about the change of the indictment. Someone said, what the hell's an indictment? So I had to explain that to somebody. So I'm getting to realize that there's some basic understanding still that people don't have, and I will do my best to educate people on the legal system as I understand it, how it works, and what's going on. So we're going to cover that. We're going to cover social media's new crackdowns on anything related to Luigi Mangione. So there's an article that we're going to read from Gizmodo talking about Reddit banning people that are even mentioning or talking about Luigi Mangione, and some new things that are happening to my account from TikTok for even talking about Luigi Mangione. So we're going to talk a little bit about social media's crackdown on Luigi Mangione as a topic. We're going to also talk about new evidence. Actually, we covered that. New evidence about showing that Thomas Dickey has seen the arrest footage. And then afterwards, so that's the major points that we're going to hit. We're going to talk about the indictment. We're going to talk about Pennsylvania. We're going to talk about what it means if the arrest in Pennsylvania was illegal. And I'm going to explain this a little bit more detailed again so that people who aren't familiar with what's happening, you'll get it. Now, again, on my YouTube channel, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to switch to a different mode here and show you well, I guess I am actually showing you right now what I wanted to show you. I wasn't where I wanted to be. So right now you can see my website displayed on YouTube, The Devil's Advocates. I'm scrolling a little bit through it. At the top of my website, I do have a section. Huh?
We can't see you scrolling.
Because there's a delay from TikTok to YouTube. So you're going to see me scrolling in about, I don't know, a minute. It's a really bad delay tonight. So again,
Kind of frozen.
so I'm going to show you at the top. There's a thing called timeline. So we're becoming aware, my wife and I are becoming aware that there is a major problem. It's funny, when I was testing this earlier, the two audios were dead on, but we've got a really good delay going right now. So when you're hearing me say I'm scrolling on the TikTok audio, it's not where I'm at on the YouTube video. So anyways, on my website, there's a timeline for Luigi Mangione. If you click on that, I'm scrolling through this on YouTube. And so hopefully you're seeing that as well. Basically, it's got all the dates, including the different times that they've set for the indictments of Luigi Mangione. Now I'm going to go over and show you LuigiMangioniInfo.com. This is the official website put up by Karen Agnifilo and her legal team covering all things basically of official about Luigi Mangione, because there's a huge public interest in Luigi Mangione's case. Again, for those who don't know, and I'm sure if you're here you already do know, Luigi Mangione is the lead suspect, the primary suspect in the shooting of Brian Thompson, healthcare CEO of United Healthcare. Well, one of the things that I was meaning to tell you in the overview, what we're going to, is that after this live, we're probably going to go about an hour to an hour and a half tonight, but after this live, there's going to be about a half-hour break, and at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, I'm going to have a special guest come on with me from the healthcare industry. Her name is Angie. She's a friend of mine. She is a analyst in medical billing, an IT analyst for a major company supporting MyChart, which is pretty much what most Americans use to access their portal into their health content. She's going to be coming on the live tonight to talk about 286, the denial code that Luigi Mangione supposedly posted about and gave Easter eggs about. Man, if you don't know all that stuff, there's so much you need to learn and watch on my content. I've covered a lot of this, but she's going to come on tonight. We're going to do a special live after this live, just specifically talking about the medical issue, the medical billing issue, and her take on what's happening in the medical industry, because it's related to Luigi Mangione in the sense that there is a belief that Luigi Mangione may have actually done this, and that he was retaliating against a healthcare system that is out of control, and had recommended that we as a society watch Sicko, the movie by Michael Moore, and read the book by Elizabeth Rosenthal called An American Sickness. So I have been running a series, a book series, going chapter by chapter through Elizabeth Rosenthal's book, An American Sickness. My friend Angie has read chapter 2. Well, she's read chapter 1 and 2, but we're ready to discuss chapter 2 in a special live tonight, getting into the nuts and bolts of the things that the book said, her inside opinion, explaining complex things in the medical industry. And again, it's related to Luigi Mangione peripherally. It's called Luigi's Bookshelf. That's what we're doing in that series. So if you want to follow that series and you want to watch my special interview with Angie after this live, and that's 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. All right, so we're on Luigi Mangione's official website from his legal team, luigimangione.com. If you look down at the bottom, you will see on that website there are 3 cases she's got highlighted. This is the federal case, the state of New York updates, and the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. So for those of you who are not understanding exactly where we're at and you're getting conflicting information, well, wait a minute, I thought Thomas Dickey was his lawyer, but I keep hearing Karen Agnifilo is his lawyer. What's going on? I thought he already was indicted. What do you mean they aren't indicted? The confusion that's coming through for the public is that there are 3 different court cases happening semi-simultaneously, but they all work in conjunction. And what's happening right now is the federal government is waiting to indict Luigi Mangione. They keep postponing the date to indict. So let me explain a little bit about that. Now, I want to point out, by the way, on Karen's site, the one that I'm kind of talking about on YouTube, LuigiMangioneInfo.com, there's hyperlinks in each one of those things to the court docket. So if I were to click on one, for example, in the federal case, for example, it'll take you to a website. And again, if you're on that, you could follow along. There's all kinds of hyperlinks to different dates that things have been filed. There's downloadable PDFs. You can do this with all 3 of the court cases. So let me explain a little bit what's happening and what the indictment process is and what each court case has done so far. So again, New York State is filing a case against Luigi Mangione. The federal government in the Southern District of New York is also filing a case against Luigi Mangione, and the state of Pennsylvania is also filing a case against Luigi Mangione. In Pennsylvania, primarily the charges are about the arrest in Altoona, Pennsylvania, where Luigi Mangione was allegedly had given a false identification to a police officer, which was one of the things they charged him with, possession of a firearm that they found in his possession when they were doing an investigation of him, and some other charges. So that is one set of charges. It is the lesser charges of what Luigi Mangione is facing right now. In addition to that, after Luigi Mangione was arrested in Pennsylvania, which, by the way, may have been an illegal arrest, and we're going to explain all of that for those of you who want to get up to speed on what's going on. So after they made the arrest in Pennsylvania, New York City basically had him extradited to New York for murder charges against Brian Thompson, because he's the lead suspect they're looking for there. So when Pennsylvania got them, him. They basically snagged him and said he's coming to New York on murder charges. So your lesser charges of gun charges and false ID are going to basically take the back burner on our major murder case. So we're taking possession of it. The federal government has been keeping Luigi Mangione in custody, even though multiple court systems want a piece of Luigi Mangione. The state of New York wants a piece of Luigi Mangione, and Pennsylvania wants a piece of Luigi Mangione, but the federal government has Luigi Mangione in custody and is basically calling the shots and basically calling a trump card. Hey, we're the federal government. We'll tell you when you can do things in the case. That's a whole separate ball of wax right there. So let's get to what's an indictment and what is a preliminary hearing for your educational purposes. So what an indictment or a preliminary hearing is basically a way to determine whether or not it's a waste of taxpayers' dollars to even try the case in the first place. So that's a summary of there's a big difference between an indictment and a preliminary hearing. But basically both of those things, either an indictment or a preliminary hearing, is a early look at the evidence to say, is there enough evidence to believe that this is worth wasting taxpayers' dollars going to court for? It is not for the purpose of determining guilt or innocence. It is purely based on, is there enough information in here that a jury should hear the evidence and make a decision for themselves? So I want to make sure you're clear about that. A grand jury indictment does not mean Luigi Mangione has been found guilty of anything when and if they get an indictment. An indictment simply means that a jury has looked at the evidence and said, yeah, there's enough evidence here that this should be fought out in court, and a jury of his peers should decide what really happened. Again, it's not about presumption of guilt or innocence. It's not assigning any guilt. It's just saying, is there enough evidence to proceed? So what's the difference between a preliminary hearing and an indictment? So an indictment is essentially, you're not going to like this if you don't know this. You're not going to like this. A grand jury indictment happens in secret. It's pretty much only the prosecution showing a judge that this is what we have against this person, and the judge deciding based on the prosecution only whether or not that warrants going to trial about. So it sounds like it's not fair. How is that fair? Like the defense doesn't even generally show up to a grand jury indictment. It's all the prosecution trying to show a judge there's enough reason to try this person and go to court, right? So a lot of times the defense does not have any part in a grand jury indictment, and it's in secret. It's done behind closed doors. You don't even know right now that the grand jury panel has been impaneled and has been looking at, in the federal case, about whether or not they can indict Luigi Mangione. And by indict him, that means they've agreed, a grand jury will agree, that there is enough evidence against Luigi Mangione that he is the person who killed Brian Thompson in New York, that we should go to trial on it. That's all they're trying to decide. Now, the state of New York, not the federal government, but the state of New York has already indicted Luigi Mangione. They have already decided they have enough evidence and they're ready to go to trial. So they have said, yep, here's the thing. The judge has said there's enough evidence to put Luigi Mangione on trial. So that's done. State of New York has indicted Luigi Mangione, and he will be going to trial in New York City. The federal government in New York, the Southern District of New York, they still have not indicted him. One could word it as such a way that they have been unable to indict him yet. That's one way you could look at it. Now, what's really happening, we don't know. But one could say they've been unable to get an indictment. In other words, because it's quiet, because it's behind the scenes, because it's private, we don't know anything other than they have passed 2 deadlines now to indict Luigi Mangione and have requested more time, which could indicate, and let me tell you something else about the indictment process you're really not going to like if you're not familiar with this. A grand jury can be impaneled as many times as they need to get an indictment. So if they put together a jury, and it's typically like 16 to 22 people on a grand jury, when they put together a jury, if that jury can't come to a decision and say, yeah, we think this should go to trial, they can dispanel that jury and impanel a new grand jury and see if they can get another grand jury to indict this time. And if that doesn't work, they can dispanel that and they can get another grand jury. And they can keep doing this technically by law as many times as they want to. So they'll keep trying to get a grand jury to indict as many times as they need to get the indictment, right? So, and of course, there comes a time when you're going to say, this is a waste of everyone's time and money. If you're not going to get an indictment, we're not going to do it for the 30th time. So there is going to be some, but it's an arbitrary number. Technically, there is no limit on the number of times they can attempt to indict. So one explanation for why the government keeps postponing the indictment of Luigi Mangione is that they have been unable to get an indictment. They've been unable to convince 16 to 22 people on the grand jury that there's enough evidence to proceed. But I have a different theory about what's happening. So my theory about what's happening, and again, let me point out, I'm not a lawyer. I just happen to read a lot about the case, and I understand, I try to educate myself in the law, and then I'm going to come to you and I'm going to try to explain to you what I understand about the law. So if I'm wrong, then so be it, but I'm going to do my best to educate you. And I usually figure these out pretty well, so I'm going to do my best to explain to you what I believe is happening. So in the state of Pennsylvania, as some of you know, this kind of snowballed when Luigi Mangione was arrested at a McDonald's in Altoona, Pennsylvania by 2 officers. During that interrogation of Luigi Mangione, which there's argument about whether or not that was an interrogation or not, the police, it is alleged by Luigi Mangione's lawyer in Pennsylvania, his name is Thomas Dickey. Thomas Dickey has argued and submitted what's called an omnibus pretrial motion for relief. He's basically said, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania needs to throw out the arrest of Luigi Mangione because it was illegal. The reason why it was illegal, to summarize Thomas Dickey's position, was that Luigi Mangione was simply sitting in a McDonald's eating a hash brown, having a good day on his breakfast that morning, when police officers came in and pinned him in the corner, blocking his ability to leave the corner, and then interrogated him, including telling him to stand up, put his hands on top of his head, frisked him, patted him down, took his belongings, and put it on the other side of them, while more and more officers continued to surround and pin Luigi Mangione in the corner, separating him from his belongings, taking his identification from him, and never telling him that he was under investigation for anything. This is key in Pennsylvania. Let me explain. I'm going to try to be brief. I know some of you heard me beat the hell out of this, but I want you to understand why this arrest may be illegal. So, Luigi Mangione was asked for identification. This was before officers told him he was being investigated or suspicion of anything. In fact, the official story was that they were coming there because he looked suspicious and had outworn his welcome at McDonald's. He had basically spent too much time eating his hash brown, which I believe was about a half hour. So that's supposedly why the police officers came. We later know that that's not true at all. Officers admitted that they came there that morning because someone said that they recognized him as the shooter in New York, and that's why they really came. But they didn't tell Luigi that. They didn't tell Luigi he was under investigation for anything. This is a big thing. What they asked him for is they said, "Can I see some identification?" Luigi Mangione presented an identification for Mark Rosario. That's a whole other thing. If you haven't seen my game theory, Mark Rosario sounds a lot like Mario. You should look into my long form video on YouTube called Luigi Mangione, the game theory. But we'll leave that aside for now. But the point being is that a surprise to even police officers who watch my channel. I've had a police officer or two maybe who have commented that they were unaware of this idea that it's not illegal to present a false ID to a law officer. It is in Pennsylvania not illegal to present false identification to a police officer if you have not been informed that you're under investigation. So this is part of the argument, is that Thomas Dickey said, my client was pinned in the corner. He was not allowed to leave. He was not told he was under investigation for anything. He was asked for identification and he provided a false ID, but that false ID is not illegal. What's that, Rhonda?
I was thinking, Sarah.
Oh. All right. So Thomas Dickey was basically saying it wasn't illegal to, and it's not. In Pennsylvania, it is not illegal to provide a false ID to an officer if you have not been told that you are under investigation. So to summarize that long thing, because it goes much further, they potentially then illegally searched his backpack before they actually told him that he was being investigated for the murder of Brian Thompson, and before he was placed under arrest. So the motion that Thomas Dickey filed a little while ago was that entire arrest was illegal. Luigi Mangione was not read his Miranda rights for at least 17 minutes. It was 15 to 17 minutes of being interrogated, including being asked to stand up, put his hands on top of his head, and be frisked, and having his belongings taken from him. It was only after 17 minutes of that interrogation, illegal interrogation, that Luigi Mangione was informed that he was under arrest and had the right to remain silent. I have a video again on TikTok that explains Miranda rights and where the whole issue of Miranda rights came from 1963 and 1966 tactics. We won't get into that whole thing, but I did a video explaining why we have the issue of Miranda rights and why officers must read you your rights. According to the Supreme Court of Arizona, that's what established the whole thing. You must be informed of your rights. And so Luigi Mangione was not informed of his rights, and so therefore the entire arrest may be illegal. Now, let's go to the top of what this is all about. Why does the federal government now want until April 18th to decide whether they're going to indict Luigi Mangione? Here's why, in my opinion. Because recently, and I think I got information on this as well. Let me see, on YouTube, I'm going to show... Nope, that's not it. So I'm just gonna explain it. So there's a judge in Blair County of Pennsylvania who has ordered the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania to respond to Thomas Dickey / Luigi Mangione, because that's his client, respond to that illegal arrest, basically allegation, in 30 days. Basically, so a judge said, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, you must respond. You can't just put this off. So Thomas Dickey has filed a motion that arrest is illegal. You have 30 days to respond, or else, like, respond. You're either going to tell me why it's legal, or it's getting tossed, right? So now the ticking time clock is on. That time clock ends on April 16th or April 17th. Okay, which is why I believe the federal government wants April 18th to be the date that they decide whether they're going to indict. Why? Because I suspect the federal government's case largely rests on how much of that evidence is going to be presented. Whether or not he had a confession letter in his backpack, whether he had the 3D printed gun in his possession, whether or not he had a notebook detailing his grievances against the health industry. All of those things, the federal government wants to know if that's going to stick. If that's not going to stick, they're going to have to change their tactics, in my opinion. Okay, I'll try to slow down. So the federal government will have to try to change their tactics if the items that were found on Luigi Mangione in Altoona, Pennsylvania, do not get upheld, because they're all thrown out, right? It would be fruit of the poisonous tree, as somebody is saying on TikTok. This is what they call fruit of the poisonous tree. So all the evidence, I don't care what the evidence is, if law enforcement obtains evidence against you illegally, even if it's the murder weapon, and they obtain it for you illegally, it's called fruit of the poisonous tree. You can't use it in court. So the government must play by the rules. If the government broke the law in order to get Luigi Mangione, then that has to be thrown out. So I suspect this is the reason why the federal government now is asking for April 18th to be the date to decide if they're going to indict Luigi Mangione. Because it's possible, I'm just theory crafting, because again, indictments, grand juries are held in private. It's possible the grand jury itself is saying, whether or not we indict is going to be largely dependent on whether or not you have the evidence you say you have against Luigi Mangione. If you don't have the gun, if you don't have a confession letter, if you don't have all these things that you say you have, then we're not going to indict. And so I would imagine the federal government wants to make sure that we get a ruling in Pennsylvania about whether or not that arrest was illegal. I'm hoping this all makes sense for you and that it wasn't completely boring, but that's my take. Now, I will tell you I've got some concerns, small concerns, about Karen Agnifalo's handling of Luigi Mangione. Now let me back up. Who's Karen Agnifalo? Karen Agnifalo is representing Luigi Mangione in both the state and the federal cases in New York. So for all intents and purposes, Luigi Mangione has two attorneys that we're talking about. Now there's even more attorneys that work for Luigi Mangione, but the two main ones are Karen Agnifalo, who's representing Luigi Mangione in the state of New York versus Luigi Mangione, and Karen Agnifalo is representing Luigi Mangione in the United States versus Luigi Mangione in the Southern District of New York. So that's why Karen is his lawyer. But Thomas Dickey is the first lawyer, because that's where he was arrested, in Pennsylvania, and Thomas Dickey will continue to represent him in Pennsylvania. It is my belief that Thomas Dickey and Karen Agnifalo, I'm sure, are working together, and they keep good notes with each other. And so when Karen gave a press conference not too long ago about the federal government again postponing Luigi Mangione's indictment, I believe that she knew darn well that Thomas Dickey was getting ready to submit a request to suppress all the evidence against Luigi Mangione, that it was an illegal arrest. And so she was basically saying, let's see what happens in Pennsylvania, because she knew what Thomas Dickey was up to, and she knew it was going to be filed. And so we're waiting on that. Now, here's why I say I question Karen. I think Karen is, from everything I hear, Karen Agnifilo is a top-notch lawyer. And I have every faith in her. But there's one thing that bothers me about what she's doing. So, and that is that in America, we have the right to a speedy trial. It is, in my opinion, in your best interest as a person being accused of a crime to have a speedy trial. Because if the government can't get their shit together on you because you didn't give them enough time, then that's too bad for them. They must give you the right to a speedy trial. Now, every single time that the government has asked for an extension on the day that they're required to indict or start a preliminary hearing against Luigi Mangione, Karen Agnifilo has granted them that more time. And that's the one part of Karen's tactic that I'm questioning. I don't understand how it's in her client's best interest to let the government continue to have more and more time. Now, there are lots of things that go on behind the doors. We don't know what's going on. Maybe there's a plea deal being made behind doors, and Karen's already worked out a deal that said, if you guys take the death penalty off the table, we'll give you more time. We don't know. There could be all kinds of conversations going on behind closed doors. But the one thing that bothers me is, again, and I want to bring up this again. I'm old. I'm from the days of O.J. Simpson. O.J. Simpson's legal team knew damn well that if they forced the L.A. Police Department to give a speedy trial, that they would make mistakes, and it worked in their favor. They did not give the LAPD any more time to put together a case against their guy. They said, no, you will give my man the right to a speedy trial. I would expect Karen Agnifilo to do the same thing for Luigi Mangione, and she's not. She continues to grant an extension. So I am a little bit worried about that. And like Lady Capulet was said, there's a lot of differences between O.J. Simpson and Luigi, one of which is that Luigi Mangione is facing 3 different court systems. And so that factors in. And we don't know how that all factors in. So when I say that I'm questioning Karen Agnifilo, I'm not saying that she's a bad lawyer. I'm not saying that she's doing anything wrong. I'm just saying that the one thing that I have not understood so far, and maybe it will make sense later, is why she keeps granting the federal government more time to come up with an indictment. So we've covered that. And did I cover everything? I hope that you understood everything that I was saying about the differences between indictments and pretrial motion or pretrial hearings. Again, the entire purpose of those is basically, do you have enough evidence to go forward to trial? And the New York State has decided they do have enough evidence. The federal government in New York has not been able to say that they are ready to go to trial. So let's talk about another thing that's of personal note, which is about us not being able to talk about Luigi in general. I want to say, first of all, and on YouTube, I'm going to pull up a video, a page of David Beatrice or Beatrice. I'm not sure exactly how to pronounce it. Someone told me one time it was Beatrice, but it looks like Beatrice to me. David Beatrice, I love his stuff on YouTube. He goes by Boomer. A lot of you people know him. I said that I wouldn't address him. For some reason, I got banned by David Beatrice for a while, and I don't know that there was a good reason for it. And somebody on my live, and I'm hoping you are here tonight. So if there were several people on my live last time when I mentioned that David Beatrice had me blocked, that they said, would you like me to ask David on your behalf if he'll unblock you? And I was like, sure, if anybody could ask him in politely to see if he'll unblock me. David Beatrice has unblocked me. And so as a tribute to Boomer, I want to show you David Beatrice's page on YouTube and say, this guy's really good. He is a lawyer. So when I said I'm not a lawyer, Boomer is a lawyer. So if you want to hear a lawyer's opinion about the Luigi case, and he covers Luigi very, very often, Boomer has unblocked me, and hopefully I am not violating the promise that I will stop mentioning him. I only mentioned him one time, but this is a positive thing, right? So go follow David Beatrice if you're not already. As you can see in the comments on TikTok, a lot of people love this guy. So yeah, he's solid. So I just wanted to give a shout out to whoever helped me get unblocked. Thank you so much for that. If it was more than one of you, we don't know which one of you got it done. Somebody got it done for me. So super cool, and yay for our community. So let's talk about what's happening in social media in general. Lots of people are talking about how they can't even talk about Luigi Mangione. As you noticed, I have said Luigi Mangione a million times. I talk about the murder of Brian Thompson and the shooting of Brian Thompson, and I don't use the words like unaliving or pew-pewing. And I have been relatively lucky. I don't know if it's because I'm small fish and I don't have a big enough audience, but I believe that we have a right to talk like an adult and to not have to play around with words. And when you say pew-pew, everyone knows what you're talking about. So what's the point of it in the first place? You know, saying unalive instead of murder, you know what you're talking about, so you're not fooling anyone. So what's the point? Let's be adults. Let's just use the words. So I have done so. However, many of you have pointed out that you're getting banned, blocked, suppressed for just simply mentioning Luigi Mangione. Now, I want to cover this a little bit in detail. Just recently, in the last few days, every single video I submit now, so my account on TikTok is getting suppressed. Every single video that I submit, whether it's on Koberger or Luigi Mangione, instead of going immediately to being served up to the algorithm when I finish cutting my video, it now tells me my content is under review. Every single one of my videos now is going content is under review for a period of time. I don't get to go immediately to you guys. Somebody has to watch my stuff and approve it before it gets put out to the audience. And I don't know why. I don't have any strikes on my account. I don't have any. All I'm doing is I'm talking about topics that are now becoming more and more sensitive because there's a continued growing attack on anybody who talks about Luigi Mangione. But I want to use an article that I've got over here on YouTube for those who are following on YouTube to demonstrate that I think we're not quite fully grasping what's happening with the Luigi Mangione situation. In other words, a lot of people keep insisting if you say Luigi Mangione, you're going to get a strike. I don't know how many times more I have to say Luigi Mangione tonight to prove to you that you don't get a strike for talking about Luigi Mangione. This article that I want to highlight some pieces in will explain a little bit my perspective of what's happening and where you are going wrong and where you're not going wrong and why I think I'm getting allowed to do what I do. And I want to use it as a teaching moment for all of us. So this is an article from Gizmodo talking about Reddit is accused of cracking down on Luigi Mangione content. This was from March 14th, 2025. You'll see this sentence over here. However, in an age of populist rage, it appears that the web platforms, and that includes TikTok and everybody else, are increasingly wary of content associated with him, Luigi Mangione, for fear of widespread idolization that it may turn violent. So basically, there's a growing fear in America that support for Luigi Mangione is going to lead to violence, right? And so stories are getting suppressed in the news, for example, of other CEOs who are being shot at and their houses are getting lit on fire and things like this. People don't hear about it as much as they would probably if this hadn't happened because there's a growing fear in America that this is going to lead to a wave of violence over Luigi Mangione. So there is some suppression admitted going on. In this purple paragraph, I want to point out, Slate recently noted that some of the forums on Reddit have been getting censored for their discussion of the accused killer. A moderator for one long-running subreddit, r/pop culture, was suspended by the platform after failing to quell the ongoing discussion about Mangione. The action followed an unusual warning from the site's safety team, Reddit Safety, that stated that the subreddit had violated content policies and upvoted violent content and it would receive a warning. And it continues on. They basically are, what they're trying to say is just mentioning Luigi Mangione is, and then the worst part was, if you upvote it, if you say, I like some comment mentioning Luigi Mangione, you are then upvoting violent content. And so users who just simply give a thumbs up to something positive about Luigi are being accused of supporting violence and inciting violence. And so this is what the allegation is that people who mention Luigi are being attributed to inciting violence, and anyone who thumbs up and says they like that content is also inciting violence. So here's continuing of a statement that was made by Reddit, I believe it was. Today we are rolling out a new sort of enforcement action across the site, the alert read, noting that starting today, users who within certain time frame upvote several pieces of content that are banned for violating our policies will begin to receive a warning. It continued, while this is currently warn only, we will consider adding additional actions down the road. So again, what they're saying is you don't even have to be a content provider providing content about Luigi Mangione. If you upvote and give positive comments or thumbs up to something written about Luigi, they will start giving you a warning. Because if that content is deemed violating their policy and you upvote it, you're also going to be now in trouble for supporting something that they've already said is a violation of their terms of policies. So, not long afterwards, Our Pop Culture, which apparently featured ongoing discussions of Mangione, posted a note claiming that one of the moderators had been suspended. This is the quote. "This sub has been placed in restricted mode and the main mod was suspended for approving comments that mention Luigi. Apparently saying Luigi is now against the rules too, even though they never told us. All comments with the word Luigi get flagged as possibly inciting violence," the note read. So, that's the allegation from somebody that was helping run Our Pop Culture. Is apparently now we're all getting banned for even mentioning Luigi Mangione. But Reddit disagrees. So let's talk about why and what Reddit said in response. I'm missing everything, aren't I, Rhonda?
She left me for sneezing.
Oh gosh, okay. All right, so this is continuing on. This is, I think, a claim from Reddit.
Thank you, TikTok addict.
While users reported being blocked or censored from merely having mentioned Mangione's name, Reddit claimed that the user was suspended that was suspended had allowed comments that advocated violence. So in other words, Reddit's saying it's not for mentioning Luigi, it's for advocating violence that this person got in trouble. So it's not that you mentioned Luigi. Continuing on, here's the quote. After publication, a Reddit spokesman wrote to Slate that one of the mods of Our Pop Culture was suspended for approving a large number, or at least 20, of comments containing direct calls for violence, including images celebrating Thomas Matthew Crooks and content calling for the assassination of the president. They added, because Our Pop Culture only had one remaining mod, we added auto mod filters to help filter reported posts and to flag certain keywords. So in other words, what Reddit is saying, again, is it wasn't Luigi Mangione that got this mod suspended. It was that he was approving direct calls for violence and the assassination of the president. It wasn't Luigi Mangione. Okay, now let's continue on. It is worth noting that Our Pop Culture is still available and even includes a profile picture of Mangione as Jesus. So it's not entirely clear what the user meant when they said that it's been closed. So in other words, the subreddit has not been closed. And that's the thing. People keep telling people all the time crazy stuff about, oh, TikTok's shutting people's accounts down. Maybe they are, maybe they aren't. But what people are saying and what the official platforms are saying are different. So then we got to ask, is there something else going on that maybe we can better educate ourselves on how we can talk about Luigi and not get ourselves banned and in trouble? Now let's continue on. A moderator for Free Luigi, another popular Mangione site, told Slate, I remember R. Luigi Mangione got banned, then R. Luigi Mangione 2, then R. Luigi Mangione 3, and I think it went up to R. Luigi Mangione 6 before people were like, we're not going to keep doing this. I'd made one called R. Luigi Fever, which was just photos of him, and it got banned as well. Now, I will summarize that what Reddit's response to that is. Reddit's terms of service says if you simply change one number in a Reddit that has been shut down, or a subreddit that's been shut down, so that you can avoid the ban by just naming it the same thing and adding a 1 to it, that's another violation of their community's terms of service. So this is why they said they banned R. Luigi Mangione, Mangione 2, Mangione 3, Mangione 4, all the way through Mangione 6, because it's always been a statement of Reddit that if they shut down a subreddit, you just adding a number to the end of it is a violation of their policy as well. So of course, everyone that just is named the same thing with a number on the end is going to get banned. That's always been the policy. When reached for comment by Gizmodo, a Reddit spokesman added that there was no site-wide filter. This is Reddit's official response. There is no site-wide filter for Luigi or expectations that users stop talking about Luigi Mangione. So I don't know if you believe them. I don't know if you do, but this is basically supposedly a spokesman for Reddit who's saying Reddit does not ban people from talking about Luigi Mangione, and there is no expectation on their platform that you can't talk about Luigi Mangione. Again, they defend themselves. We are only shutting down people who are calling for violence, people who are saying somebody should go take out somebody should go do something, anything that calls out violence and basically asks for violence. Now here's the part. We know that people are human. Moderators are humans. And so what you as a moderator might feel as a call to action or a call to violence, and what somebody else feels as a call to action may be two entirely different things. That's part of the problem with TikTok as well, is I believe that every moderator who has to agree or watch your video and decide whether or not you're promoting violence or not, well, if you think think Luigi Mangione is a murderer, and therefore anything positive said about him is therefore supporting and celebrating murder, then you could say that's celebrating violence. But somebody else is like, no, they didn't specifically say that they approve of the murder. They're just talking about the guy, so they let it fly. And because moderators are humans, some moderators are letting shit go through, and some moderators aren't. So, some of it's just luck of the draw, I think. Let's continue. A few more quotes. The Reddit spokesman said that Luigi Mangione was banned for glorification of violence and others, 2 and 3 for ban evasion. Once a subreddit is banned, you aren't allowed to make identical subreddits for the purpose of evading the ban. This is the whole Luigi Mangione 1, 2, 3, 4 situation. The spokesman added that in all cases, the bans were not related to the topic of Luigi Mangione. Our site-wide rules apply to behavior, i.e. inciting or glorification of violence, and not topics. So again, Reddit's official stance is we are not banning everyone for talking about Luigi Mangione. We're banning incitement of violence. So there's where you need to be super careful, is never to make it look like or to be supporting violence. That is what's getting people in trouble the most. Now, I'm not saying that people aren't getting banned for simply mentioning his name, because again, it's each moderator's interpretation. And if they think he's a killer and you're supporting him, then you're supporting a killer, therefore you're inciting violence, and that could be used as their logic. And it sucks, because we are less and less being treated like adults, where we can just have open communication and talk about things like adults, and treated like children because somebody else decided that they're offended about you having anything positive to say about somebody that they think is a murderer. And let's not forget that the devil's advocate's entire purpose is the presumption of innocence. We believe in looking at the presumption of innocence. A person is innocent in America until proven guilty in a court of law. I said I was going to slow down earlier. I do really shitty at that, so I apologize for that. The moderator, this is the last paragraph that we're going to copy from this article or talk about. The moderator of R Free Luigi told Slate, no one in R Free Luigi wants anyone to get murdered, and no one is celebrating the man that did, or that died. There are obviously some crazy people on the internet who are, but the entire community of 30,000 people shouldn't be punished for one person's actions. So in other words, they're just saying that we agree with you, the Reddit owners agree with you, that we don't want to incite violence, and we're not trying to celebrate murder, and we're not saying that we think it's a great thing that this happened, but we're allowed to talk about it, and we should be treated like adults. Amen to that. All right, enough of the Gizmodo article. So let's move on to the Law and Order special. So Law and Order is going to have an episode airing tomorrow, called Folk Hero. It says ripped from the headlines. I'm going to show on YouTube. And again, if you're watching the audio here, it's so delayed over on YouTube. So hopefully if you're watching YouTube, you can watch it in person. And I'm sorry that you may not get to hear any of this. I don't know. I'll try to turn up my speaker so that maybe some of this will filter through on my microphone. But I'm going to play the audio, the clip of tomorrow's episode, the preview of tomorrow's episode, ripped from the headlines about Luigi Mangione, even though they're not saying it's Luigi Mangione. And then if you don't know the shocker, there's a shocker. There's a shocker on who's on the who advises Law and Order on the legal team that advises the show. So let's watch this trailer here.
He wanted to decimate the insurance.
Oh, and then we got an ad, right?
He wanted to decimate the insurance industry.
He assassinated an innocent man.
And people love him for it. Law and Order, new next Thursday on NBC and Peacock.
A woman had sex.
So that's it. I mean, it's super short, it's super brief, but it literally says ripped from the headlines. It shows somebody gunning down an insurance CEO on the streets of New York, and then it talks about people love him for this, and it's called Folk Hero. It's very, very obviously patterned after Luigi Mangione. Here's the crazy shit. Because like a lot of people will say, they're like, I'm getting tired of 5 different documentaries about Luigi Mangione before he's even had his day in court. I agree. It's bothersome, but I also need to watch all those because I'm trying to inform you of what the media is doing. Media, that's one of the things we're always critical about at Devil's Advocates, is we're critical of mainstream media, law enforcement, and the judicial system, and I want to educate you on the tactics that the media does to try people in the court of public opinion before they've even had their first day in court, which is why we're are seeing 4 different or 5 different documentaries on Luigi Mangione where they have titles like The Mind of a Killer, which already tells you that they said, we know Luigi Mangione did it, so now we're going to have a documentary, The Mind of a Killer, and show you how he got deranged enough to do this. We don't know that Luigi Mangione did it. He hasn't had his day in court, but yet he's already been tried in the court of public opinion, and now there's a Law and Order special on it. But did you know that Luigi Mangione's attorney, Karen Ignifilo, is an advisor for Law and Order? She's actually on their team advising Law and Order on how to accurately portray legal issues. Let's prove that to you real quick if you haven't seen it. Over here again on YouTube, Karen Ignifilo's website, the team Karen Ignifilo, if you scroll down to the bottom about all her bio and all the things about her, this highlighted sentence at the bottom says, she is also legal advisor for the television show Law and Order. Literally, Luigi Mangione's attorney is a legal advisor for Law and Order that is doing a fictionalized version of Folk Hero about a murderer of a CEO and how everybody loves the guy for doing it. Well, let me clarify that. They're not saying they love him for doing that. Whether or not they love the shooter is not necessarily because of what he did, right? So let's make that clear, because that would again be inciting violence, glorifying violence if they loved him for what he did. So anyways, I just thought that was super, super interesting. And then the last thing I wanted to cover for as far as highlights of tonight's rundown that I said I was going to do is just a little quick clip again on my YouTube channel so that you can see it, where Thomas Dickey himself essentially, and it happens really, really fast, but his wording indicates the thing that we've all asked. Where the hell is the footage of Luigi Mangione being arrested in Altoona, Pennsylvania? Isn't there body cam footage? Didn't McDonald's have CCTV coverage? Why is nobody pulling out cell phones and recording Luigi Mangione being arrested in Altoona? Because we don't know if any of the things that Thomas Dickey said were true. Thomas Dickey alleges that Luigi Mangione was pinned in a corner by law enforcement, was not allowed to leave. It was clear that he was being detained and he was being investigated, and his Miranda rights were not read during that entire 15 to 17 minute interrogation, including a frisk and search of his belongings, all completely illegal if you haven't read him a Miranda rights, right? So the question became, has anybody seen the body cam footage? Is there body cam footage? Here's a real quick clip of Thomas Dickey, who admits he has seen the body cam footage. So I'm just going to play it real quick.
They continued to question him even after he shook his head, indicating he did not want to speak to officers.
He was not free to go. I mean, clearly when you look at the video footage, he's not free to go. He's basically surrounded. Once you are in what's called a custodial interrogation and being questioned about that, you have to be apprised of your rights.
So there you have it. That's Thomas Dickey admitting he's seen the video, he's seen the camera footage. It's not just, because before we were asking the question, is it just that Luigi told his lawyer that's how it happened, or did his lawyer actually see it for himself? If there was any doubt anymore about whether or not Thomas Dickey saw it for himself, that's the proof. He said, when you see that video, it is very clear Luigi Mangione is not free to go. He saw the footage. So again, there was question, even by someone like myself, is, well, do we know for sure Thomas Dickey saw it, or is he just taking Luigi's word? Now you know Thomas Dickey has seen the footage, and he literally said, when you watch the footage, it's clear Luigi Mangione is not free to go. It's also clear that he was interrogated and not read his Miranda rights. These things are clear. So if that is clearly seen on body cam footage, and that is presented to the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, now a judge, we have to see how honest a judge is in Pennsylvania. I don't want to say that they're not honest, because that's, we have to presume our legal system is good, whether or not they agree that was a complete violation of Luigi Mangione's rights to be detained, interrogated, not told you're under investigation, and then basically after you've given up incriminating evidence, then told, hey, by the way, you're under arrest and you have the right to remain silent. And by the way, as Thomas Dickey indicated at the very beginning of that audio, if you didn't hear it, as soon as soon as Luigi Mangione was read his Miranda rights and they asked him if he would like to talk, he shook his head no. He didn't even answer yes. I beat this to death too. He didn't even answer yes. He literally stopped talking at the point they said, you have the right to remain silent. And I know some of you will say to yourself, well, how does anybody in America not know you have the right to remain silent? Do you really want us to believe that Luigi didn't realize he could keep his mouth shut until they told him? However, one could argue Luigi Mangione could be playing a game. Luigi Mangione could have known they were going to mess up that arrest. Could have known that they were going to violate his rights. Set them up for that. If that was the possibility, then maybe there's a game afoot. And again, I refer to my video called it's called The Devil's Briefcase. It's a podcast I started, and the episode 1 is called Luigi Mangione, The Game Theory. It talks about the idea of whether or not Luigi Mangione with a group of other conspirators are actually playing a game and basically leading law enforcement on a wild goose chase, knowing darn well that the law enforcement is not going to be able to legally prosecute this case because they're going to have to do something illegal to get it to stick. Now, the problem with that theory, the whole problem with that theory, is that you're playing a bad game, right? Because the government is going to they are going to hang you. And I mean hang you figuratively. They are going to make sure Luigi goes down for this. So, and whether or not they have to play legally or not, in my opinion, they will get him to stick on this. So if you're counting on, I'm going to walk because they didn't do it legally, I don't know that we care in a lot of places anymore about the rule of law. We don't seem to care in this country about the rule of law as much as we want to. But that's because I'm critical of our judicial system, our law enforcement system, and the mainstream media. So, again, if it was a game and they plan on getting away with it, or if somebody plans on getting away with it because they knew law enforcement was going to have to lie and twist and plant evidence to make it stick, I still think you would fail in the sense that they will lie and plant evidence to make it stick if they have to. Now, that's just conjecture from things that I've seen. I've seen it happen all too often. If you don't think that law enforcement and the government has been caught planting evidence on people, then you're not educating yourself. This has been an ongoing thing throughout the history of our judicial system. Crooked cops, paid off cops, planted evidence, that kind of stuff's been going on since the mobsters' day. I was just down in Vegas and saw the mobsters museum, and they were talking about all the crooked cops that were paid off by the mob. It's just a common thing. So again, it's not just a conspiracy theory. This is the world we live in. So that's the bad thing about it. So I need to take a breath for a second. Well,
someone asked,
yeah.
How do you know Luigi's attorney is involved in that particular episode?
No. So let me. Well, yes. So somebody asked the question: how do we know Karen Agnifilo is involved with the episode Folk Hero? We don't know that. What we know is what I told you, which is that Karen Agnifilo is a legal advisor for the show Law and Order. Absolutely possible that she's been doing that for a long time, and they did this against her wishes. She could be like, that you shouldn't run that, or whatever. They might not have cared whether Karen Agnifilo is giving them information or telling them to do it or not do it. They're gonna capitalize on a hot topic. Like Luigi Mangione is a hot topic, so they're capitalizing on it. She may have a real problem with it. She may be like pissed off that her name is associated with it, and we don't know. So it's a good question. And hear me out, like, I gotta be careful because it would be illegal for her to do this, but is Karen Agnifilo playing their game? So you're going to put out a bunch of documentaries about Luigi Mangione, besmirching my client's name and making him look like a killer and a murderer before he's even had his first day in trial. So I'm going to help put out an episode that shows him on a positive light, and I'm going to help make him look positive. So could she be doing that and playing their own game to persuade the court of public opinion? So that's my thought on that.
Someone else asked if we had heard anything from the person that was standing next to BT at the time of the incident.
Okay, say that one more time.
So someone said we also haven't heard anything from the person standing next to BT at the time of the incident.
Yes, so I think what you're talking about is on the video of the shooting of Brian Thompson, there's an individual, I think drinking a cup of coffee, who basically just kind of reels and kind of walks off real quick right while the shooting is happening. And to my knowledge as well, I have not heard anything about who that individual is. The coffee cup lady is somebody. Yeah. So yeah, I would like to know who that is. I think everyone in America wants to know who that is. Does anybody in my comments know that person has been questioned and has made any kind of official statement? Because all of us want to know. Like that was one cool, calm, and collected New Yorker, right? They're like, oh shit, somebody just got shot. I think I'm just going to move down the street. Like, it's weird. They saw everything, right? So
Priscilla also says, did you guys see that the judge is married to the Altoona lieutenant?
did you see that the judge, which judge? The judge in Blair County that I do not know about. So what you just said, what I heard from my wife saying is that some judge is married to, what'd you say, Rhonda?
The Altoona lieutenant.
The police lieutenant in Altoona. Whoever just said that, if you would please,
Priscilla.
if somebody would please send me that information in private message on TikTok or YouTube or wherever it came from, I would really appreciate it. I will look into it and I will stick it on one of my lives. So thank you very much. Any other comments? I'm just looking now for comments. It looks like I made record time because I talk at 1 million miles an hour. I apologize to the... I need to breathe. I feel like I am breathing. Like you have to. Like I would be passed out if I hadn't breathed in an hour. So that's the thing. Like when I get excited about a topic, I move fast. I talk fast. I will slow down if I can, but it's really hard. But now that I'm through all the verbal vomit, now I can slow down. So if you've missed something and you need me to go over something a little slower, I can. Otherwise, if you need to jet out because you heard everything you want to hear for the night and I'm just going to recover a new thing.
Yeah, hold on.
Yeah.
So somebody else says that the person is married to a Pennsylvania State Police lieutenant, not a Altoona Police Department guy.
Okay, yeah. Once again, I don't need, but I would love to be able to have some of that information you're talking about so I can dig into it and get it clear.
That was Monica Salida.
Oh yeah, Monica. Okay, good. I see Monica in my lives all the time. So yeah, Monica, and I think you even sent me private messages. So if you're willing, please give me a little bit of that information. Yeah, that would be great. Was it Salta? Anyways, yeah. Monica Salta? Salita, okay. Any other questions now that I'm unwinding? So let me remind you of a few things as we're wrapping up, because it's I made it in 1 hour. In another hour, so it's 7 o'clock Pacific Standard Time right now. In another hour, after I formally shut this down, I'm going to restart a live on YouTube only, not on TikTok. YouTube only. And it's going to be with my friend Angie from, she is a healthcare analyst for medical billing. And she's going to give some insights into the healthcare industry, specifically the book that we're reading in my YouTube series called Luigi's Bookshelf, where we're reading the book An American Sickness. And it's something subtitled like, how the health insurance industry has become corrupt and what you can do about it, kind of thing is what it was, something to that effect. So we're reading that book. We're on chapter 6 right now, but Angie and I, due to various different reasons, haven't been able to get together until tonight. So we're going to get together tonight. After I shut this down, we'll restart at 8 o'clock and do a special live call recorded on Discord. I'm going to have the book up with highlights from the book as I talk to Angie about things that I have questions about that she certainly knows more about, and she can help put some perspective into those things. Anything? So Rhonda got Monica's name right and I got it wrong. Damn it. Damn it. I mean, I apologize. I do not mean to offend. I'll get with Rhonda and have her pronounce it for me like 20 times tonight so I got it straight, and then I will do you right. Any other comments or questions about tonight before I do my official wrap up and shutdown? Do I think Luigi's views had to do with his parents' involvement in the medical industry? I don't know. So that's a difficult question. It's a great question, but it's a difficult question and the reason why it's difficult is because you have to presume the things that they say Luigi wrote are things that he actually wrote. So if we presume that Luigi Mangione really wrote the things that were written in the last documentary about him, it seemed to me to indicate that Luigi was more concerned about corporate greed and the abuse of corporatism in America in general, and that the famous quote that supposedly came from Luigi is that the health insurance industry just happened to check all the boxes. In other words, it could have been a different industry. He was more railing against corporate greed, class warfare, the inequality of the rich, and all these things, and that the health insurance industry just happened to check all the boxes. And or Brian Thompson specifically checked all the boxes. That part is a little bit unclear again. But so I don't know. What I do know, from what I understand, is that Luigi Mangione nor his family were patients of United Healthcare, so they wouldn't have had a direct beef with United Healthcare in general. In other words, it seems to me if Luigi Mangione did have a beef with the health insurance industry, United Healthcare was probably picked just because it was the forefront leader in denials of claims. This is what Angie and I are going to talk about: is the denials of claims process, the coding of, because she helps with medical billing coding, and the code 286, which is you've ran out of appeal time. So remember the bullet casings in Luigi's in the alleged shooting by Luigi, the bullet casings had the words deny, delay, depose written on the bullet casings. This harkened to a book that was called Delay, Deny, Defend, something to that effect. That was a book being critical about the health insurance industry. So it indicates that Luigi, if or whoever the shooter was, again, I have a theory that Luigi wasn't the trigger man. Luigi may have been a fall guy, and an intentional fall guy. Again, watch the movie How to Blow Up a Pipeline if you're not sure why that makes any sense. How to Blow Up a Pipeline will show you why that makes sense to certain people, to have a group of conspirators pull off something and then let one of them take the fall for it so that the rest of them can get away and maybe do it again or start a revolution or whatever the case may be. So that is the premise of How to Blow Up a Pipeline. I talk about that in detail on some of the videos on my website.
I have one more thing.
Rhonda has one more thing.
So the X accounts banning, have you heard that?
Yes. So I was told that Luigi Mangione's, Pep Mangione, I think is the account name, X account / Twitter account, whatever you want to call it. So X account has been deactivated or taken offline just recently. So I did hear about that. I don't have super feelings about it one way or another. I think one individual thought that maybe Luigi Mangione's team actually was responsible for taking down his X feed. I suspect it's the federal government that took down his X feed. However, I have no reason to believe why it's either case. My guess would be that it would be the federal government taking it down. But my problem with my own theory is, why didn't they take it down a lot sooner? So why now? So that is something new that has happened that I did hear about. Thank you, by the way. I want to say thank you so much to my community. When I was in Vegas on a family vacation with my wife Rhonda, by the way, everybody, it's Rhonda's birthday tomorrow, and you're not going to see her again before we go live again. So say hi to my wife if you have a care, because it's her birthday tomorrow. But anyways, when we were in Vegas, it was so amazing. Our community was blowing up my phone, telling me new information that had just broke in different cases with Koberger and Luigi.
Oh, you guys are so sweet.
Thank you for the support for my wife's birthday. Awesome. So anyway, so I just was, I want to say that I love this community that are growing. This is exactly what I wanted to do. It's exactly why I want to build the channel more, is I want to be able to have you guys looking out for me and feeding me that top information, those instantaneous, this just happened and Devil's Advocates needs to know about it, and I need to know what his take is on it. I mean, obviously, it means a million to me that you care to hear my take on it, and it also means a million to me that you're not letting me miss out on breaking news. It is almost impossible at this point for me to miss out on breaking news, because you guys are all over it. So thank you, and do not stop. And again, if I ever tell you, yes, I'm aware of that, or I've heard of that, don't take it as, oh, well, he doesn't want me to tell him about it because he always knows about it. I only know about it because 12 other people might have told me the same thing and beat you to it. Never feel bad about sending me information, because you may be the first person. Keep it coming. Absolutely. Any other questions before I do my wrap-up monologue, which will be brief, relatively? What the title of the book? The book we are reading is called An American Sickness by Elizabeth Rosenthal. It's a book about the health insurance industry, written by a doctor who is telling us how bad the American medical system is in detail. And so we've been reading about the corruption of the healthcare system, and I'm going to be talking to my special guest, Angie, who deals with medical billing, in about an hour. And so if you want to watch that, and it'll also be recorded, by the way. It'll be recorded and put on my playlist on YouTube called Luigi's Bookshelf as a kind of an addendum to the chapter that we talked about a while back. So we're going to be mostly talking about chapter 2 of the book. We're on chapter 6 now. But Angie and I are going to mostly talk about chapter 2. And I'm just going to put it in there as like a episode 2.5, little half addendum add-on to a discussion about that chapter.
There's one more thing.
Yeah.
Or maybe more. So someone wants to know if we're covering the Menendez hearing in April.
Good question.
That sounds like fun.
It does sound a little fun. I might. I'm certainly interested in the Menendez brothers case, and I think there's a lot of interest out there. So absolutely, I will look into covering that. Absolutely. Thank you for the suggestion.
And then someone asked if we're going to Kohlberger on Friday.
What is happening?
Natasha.
Kohlberger's on. What is happening? Is Kohlberger have a date on Friday that I don't?
No, were we going to go live on Friday and talk about Kohlberger?
Oh yes, we are going to go live on. We are going to go live on Friday, and I haven't 100% decided whether it's Kohlberger or. New docs came out. Okay, if new docs came out, Friday is going to be Kohlberger. So I will review all the documents that came out, and we will talk about Kohlberger exclusively on Friday. Thanks for joining, by the way. If you're signing off, say what?
Tonight. So apparently there's a monster Netflix series about the Menendez brothers.
Okay. Well, then I'm going to have to get up to speed. Thank you for... See, you guys are amazing. Here's the problem I have, just briefly, before I do my wrap up, is I found that people started following me because of Luigi Mangione. So when I started following Kohlberger, I had some people who got a little annoyed and didn't like coming into lives when I was trying to split my attention and say, hey, we're going to talk the first part of the night about Kohlberger and the second part of the night about Luigi. And both sides were kind of like, well, I don't give a shit about Luigi, or I don't give a shit about Kohlberger. And I get that. But it's hard for me to be a true crime station, if you will, or whatever, and only focus and be a one-trick pony. So I have multiple stories that I'm interested in. So I'm trying to find a way to separate my content for you. So at YouTube, I've got a channel devoted to Luigi Mangione. I've got a channel devoted to Kohlberger. Yes, in the past, I have a bunch of lives that are there that have a little bit of both. I'm going to stop doing that for you guys, and I'm going to try to stay in my lane on a certain night, and I will tell you ahead of time. I post my lives ahead of time so that you can register for them, and it'll say something like on TikTok, it'll say Devil's Advocates on Luigi Mangione, Devil's Advocates on Kohlberger or Idaho 4, and maybe Devil's Advocates on Menendez brothers. So that way you have a chance to tune out on the things that you aren't interested in.
Some BK ideas transfer to Luigi, like question on evidence.
Monica, I that's what I've been trying to say, and that's what I was trying to bridge. Is I kept saying to people, I hope you'll stick around even if you're not following XYZ case, because some of the things relate. The legal process is the same. The discovery process is the same. Evidence discovery is the same. And so I agree with you. I thought that there was a good learning exercise for people to follow all of the things that I follow, because I dovetail them together. But a lot of people don't see it that way. So my final thoughts for the night are: 1, gratitude again for everyone who followed us tonight. Thank you for saying happy birthday to my lovely wife.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for all the support of the channel. We had a really good, I think we had a good peak tonight of concurrent viewers and a good solid concurrent run. I don't know how YouTube looked. I'm really trying to get YouTube going because I'm a long form kind of guy. As you can tell, I can't say shit in 30 seconds. So TikTok is very hard for me. Right? I mean, how am I on a platform that they want you to do 60-second videos or less? Like, anyways. So yeah, I'm trying to make YouTube be a little bit more of my focus. However, I don't want to give up on TikTok because I think TikTok is amazing. The name of our YouTube channel is Devil's Advocates 2020. It's above here. 2024. You see that right there? At Devil's Advocates 2024 on TikTok. If you see that up there, that's my channel on TikTok. I also have another channel called Devil's Advocates Backup that is kind of my personal story about my life and my wife and our family reunion, whatever. But I didn't cover that as much because nobody's following that channel, and I realized I was looking foolish making videos for no one. So if there ever was interested, we would we'll continue that. All right. So as a final good night, thank you again for coming. Thank you for bearing with me as we worked out our audio problems. It looks like we still have a lot of audio problems, and we still have that big delay going on between YouTube and TikTok, and I don't know how this is going to be perceived. If you happen to watch both, please let me know what your thoughts are. Please let me know what we could have done better. I'm always trying to improve this and make it a little bit better each time.
Hang tight, TikTok. I will find it for you and post. Well, no, it won't let me post it. Never mind.
It probably won't let you post the link, unfortunately.
I can send it to you personally.
I do have a video, by the way. I do have a video on my profile that was shot today that has the link to the TikTok feed. It's to the live feed, though. It's not to the channel. It's to the live feed for tonight, right? So you could go to my profile right here on TikTok and look at the last video that has like a red title across the top, and it's the URL of the live feed tonight. I'm assuming that even if the live is done, it'll take you to the replay of the live and easy hyperlink to the actual channel. So if you're interested, please follow there. I got a major goal.
Okay, send you the link.
A major goal over on TikTok or YouTube. I need to get 500 subscribers, and I'm at 211. It's been a slog over there, so I'm just not getting traction. People have given me some tips, by the way, on how to increase my viewership on YouTube, which is stop rambling so much at the beginning and get right to it, because I had to wait a half an hour for you to start talking about Luigi, and I'm not waiting a half hour. But I love your stuff, so if you could get to it faster, which I'm trying, but once again, I can't say shit in 30 seconds. So, all right, that's it, people. I'm going to sign off. I will be back in just about an hour with my friend Angie. All things considered, hopefully that will go well, and we will have a conversation about Chapter 2, specifically, of An American Sickness by Elizabeth Rosenthal. And as a reminder, it relates to Luigi Mangione, because Luigi Mangione, in some particular writings, suggested that if you want to get educated on the healthcare system, you should read Elizabeth Rosenthal's book. So we're doing that, and I hope that you'll join me. You can go back to Chapter 1 right now, and you can start watching our review of every single chapter and the highlights from that book in our book discussion. Thank you for coming in, and I'll see you again on Friday about Kohberger.
Yay.
And I've got to figure out how to stop the YouTube stream.